Why? Why? Why?
Why, Fox? Why?
Hi guys, and welcome to another movie review by The Rift Effect. Unfortunately, today I haven't been joined by Tia because she's got school, I'm working night shift, so we just couldn't get together to watch the movie, so I had to go all by myself. Aww. Anyway, so let's get into this movie. First thing I'm going to address is I am not going to go into the X-Men timeline too much. As we all know, it is messed up. How James McAvoy can go to Patrick Stewart in the space of around 5 years, God knows. But hey, I went into this movie open-minded, tried to sort of forget the other movies that had happened other than relating to the characters that we see, and I especially went into this movie because I love the Dark Phoenix saga. That is one of my favourite all-time Marvel comic book stories. I love the X-Men, they were my favourite Marvel characters. They got me into Alpha Flight and everything else, and so I was going into this with an open mind, hoping that Fox has learnt from their mistakes in the past with the other X-Men movies, and we were going to get something phenomenal. Did it deliver? Unfortunately, no. The first 10 minutes of this movie are visually stunning, on point for the story, on point with tying in with the comic books and things, but that's it. The 10 minutes, first 10 minutes of the movie, which you pretty much see in the trailer, and then it falls flat. Why? Okay, so the story is, obviously, as you've seen in the trailer, Jean Grey gets hit by this force and turns into the Dark Phoenix. You then have the other people, which I won't go into too much detail without spoilers, other people who then want to influence her to use her for their notorious ways, destroying the planet, you know, those type of things. And then you've got the X-Men who are trying to stop her from turning bad. And it's just not there. I really don't know how to emphasize it. The story makes sense, the story carries on, but it doesn't give you the epic explosion which is the Dark Phoenix saga. So many fans invested in that saga. So many fans loved that storyline. As I say, it's one of my all-time favourites. But you don't get the connection. The bad guys in this, they're just shoehorned in. They're not even part of. They're not part of anything that we've seen before. Not part of anything that makes sense. It's just sort of they're thrown in to keep the story going. Now the main bad guy, the blonde-haired woman whose actress name I can't remember right now, she's really good. As is all the actors. All the acting is spot on, and that's one plus to this film. Is all the acting is perfect. However, this main bad guy, she is from, if you know the comic book story, she is the Emma Frost. That is what her role is. She is the Emma Frost from the comic book, but she's not Emma Frost. She's this random bad guy that we have no connection or history with or anything really. They're just shoehorned in to make this movie story move on and move past, and it does. It moves, it flows, and the story does flow with what you're giving. But there's just no connection there. And the movie is 90% of Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, of her trying to control herself and not go bad. And that is the movie. There's this whole build-up and build-up and build-up of Jean Grey turning into the Phoenix. And it's in the last 5 minutes of the movie. It should have been two parts. It should have been the Jean Grey trying to deal with coming to the Phoenix. And then the last quarter should have been of her becoming the Phoenix and dealing with that power and how it goes on. But it never happened. It is mostly Jean going, I don't want to be bad, I don't want to be bad. And that's just not. Don't get me wrong, Sophie Turner's performance in this is fantastic. James McAvoy's acting as if Michael Fassbender, they're all fantastic, fantastic actors. And Sophie Turner, it was great to see her do something other than Game of Thrones, where she plays, you know, this stony-faced girl for 90% of. This time she actually shows emotion. This time she's actually showing her feelings, and it's great acting, and she did great with the material she was given. Same with the rest of the actors. All their acting was on point. The problem was the story. It just wasn't that dramatic feeling enough. You didn't get the like you do if you're a comic book fan. You didn't get that dramatic feeling, and it let the movie down. It really, really did. And I don't know if that's a writer issue or if how it was filmed. You can tell that this is the director's first movie debut. There's scenes in there that were shot very well, and then other scenes where you just thought, okay, we're jumping between two guys' faces having a conversation. So there's two bits in this story as well where two characters get their growing up moment, and basically it's two young characters that suddenly have that moment where they're meant to have grown up. But again, these, especially in one case, it falls flat on its face. So the two characters in Nightcrawler and Cyclops, both of them get scenes. Nightcrawler's is so much better than Cyclops's. Cyclops's growing up moment is one line, and honestly, if I was on the receiving end of that line, I would have laughed in his face. And it's disappointing because Cyclops is one of my completely favourite characters out of the X-Men series. In the comic books anyway. Not in the movies so much. And it was meant to be this coming of age because it's the last movie done by Fox now that Disney own them. Hopefully now we'll get an X-Men that's more encompassing with the MCU, and hopefully they'll eventually blend that in. But with this franchise, yeah, just the impact of what Cyclops was trying to achieve fell flat in his face. When you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. Nightcrawler though, wow, did he get brutal. He grew up, and he grew up fast and brutal with it. He was taking a leaf out of Magneto's book. Magneto, Michael Fassbender was absolutely fantastic. Again, showed his brutality as Magneto, showed what Magneto would be, and I'd love to see him in a later movie as an older, more classic looking Magneto with the long white hair, and be the sort of Joseph character from the comic books. That would be fantastic to see. So going on to the musical score, let's just say there was one. It fitted well with the movie, but at no point did it give me that punch or this great goosebump feeling. Going back to last week's Godzilla review, the music hit you like a smack in a wall. This, it was great, it was fine, it was on par, it was typical Hans Zimmer, but there was nothing there that made me go, oh, shivers, or anything like that. And with the scenes that were going on, it just, I don't know if it was partly because the scenes fell flat in their face, so yeah, musical score wasn't great. So next I'll move on to visuals, and some of the visuals in this were great, some fell flat. Again, they can't seem to get this balance. The scenes in space, fantastic, really good looking scenes, everything done beautifully, rendered beautifully, and just looked great. You then get the scene where Professor X, Mystique and Beast are in Cerebro, and you can tell that, and I know you're meant to be in this ball, but they just looked out of place. They looked like they were on a green screen. It was blatantly obvious that they were surrounded by a green screen. And that's just where this film, again, has this mix of, they do some good stuff, and then they just let it down with other parts, and it's disappointing. So, finally I'll go on to costuming, and the X-Men suits. Looked really nice, very simple, very practical. They hark back to New X-Men, one of my collection, and I quite like it. It's not my favourite suit, not the worst suit I've seen. Will I cosplay it? Possibly in the future. I do want to do a Cyclops at some point. He's my favourite character from the X-Men, so I do want to do him, but I'd probably go more classic way. This might be an option for if I want to do a more casual Cyclops. But again, nothing impacted, nothing went, oh wow, that's visually... I mean, even Magneto, other than his helmet, he was in normal plain clothes. Jean Grey, normal clothes. She looked great. I mean, Sophie Turner is stunning anyway, but she looked great. But there was no impact, which is what you want from a superhero movie. You want, and especially from an X-Men movie, you want these things to impact you, and it just wasn't there. So in summary, guys, great acting, absolutely cannot fault the acting, and that is probably the thing that's dragging this up from the bottom levels of scoring. Great acting. The story flew naturally, which was great. However, the writing wasn't. I think the actors did great stuff with what they were given, but it wasn't perfect. And director possibly didn't help. I don't know, but my thought is maybe they weren't getting the direction they should have got, and so the shots and certain scenes just weren't there. As I say, if we'd had a full movie like the first 10 minutes, there would be no issue with this film. I think it would have been fantastic. And if they developed Jean from being trying to contain herself to then being full on Phoenix for a good last part of the film, it would have been a different story. But unfortunately, they went with what they did. So on a score out of 10, because T's not here, we normally do a score of 5 each, and then a 10 overall, so I'll just give you a straight 10 overall. I'm going to hit this straight and be pretty brutal and say it's a 5. It's straight down the middle. One, the reason I'm getting it straight down the middle is love the X-Men, love what they attempted to do, love the acting, but everything else was either middle of the road, no impact, or it was just not there, not giving you the saga that we were all praying for. Hopefully now that Disney and Fox, and now that they're going back to Marvel Studios, hopefully we'll get a later redo of this story and they'll do it justice and do it the way it is. So with that, guys, I will see you next time, and on that, geek out. So basically, the acting's on point. With the material they had, all the actors are great. Jennifer Lawrence, Mike Fishbender, hello.